on my way to see Ben Cook, Proficient, in St. Louis. Not in my own car, not using my normal navigation methods, but looking forward to seeing a bunch of folks in the St. Louis region. On a family vacation actually right now, so I didn't shave. Not really wearing work clothes per se, but in any event, the videos should be pretty entertaining. I'm looking forward to talking to Ben Cook and a bunch of other people today. We'll start off with Ben Cook and see how that goes. This video is sponsored by Rank Ranger, an all-in-one SEO platform that offers dozens of customizable tools and reports. Check them out at rankranger.com. Thank you, Ben, for having me here.
Absolutely.
This is the Proficient headquarters, right?
Yeah.
And we're in St. Louis. This is where my in-laws live. So I'm on a family vacation, so thanks for having me get away from the family for at least a half a day or so. I'm going to be doing a bunch of these interviews. I've known you for a really long time in the SEO industry.
Yeah, it's true.
We've been on the forums together, I think also in social media, of course, Twitter and so forth. Can you tell people here a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So, like you said, I've been doing this a long time. I realized this morning, actually, it's been almost 15 years. Started out learning on several of the forums, Webmaster World, of course, SEO Chat back in the day, right? And then moved on from a small company that sort of introduced me to the concept of SEO to Network Solutions. I was the SEO manager there for a few years, and then went out on my own and did my own consulting for, I guess, 6 or 7 years. And then I've been with Proficient for coming up on 3 years now.
Wow, that's awesome. And when you first got into SEO, it was pretty much like you get away with murder and do whatever you want.
Yeah. So it was like right after they had switched to like not just allowing you to rank for whatever was in your keyword tag, which I know people are like really disappointed in.
Right.
But it was like, keyword stuffing, link spamming. It was the Wild West. In fact, I ranked for golf for like 2 days with a spam site on both Google and like for 3 weeks on Bing.
This is before even link spamming, or was during link spamming?
It was like, it was right during link spamming, sort of with some spun up content. And it was like, this was when like the size of your site really mattered. And then I also hung it off of on a subdomain of like a really authoritative site that I had access to, and it worked great.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's fun how the industry itself has grown over the years. I see a lot of people like us who are in the industry. We're doing our own solo things, affiliates, I guess spamming, back in the day, because that's what worked very well. And now we've kind of matured, and along with Google, because Google's gotten a lot better at detecting this stuff and making the search results more, authoritative, if we want to call it. So it's nice to see all these people who were back in the days, like we were just going to these conferences, training, exchanging secrets, and then now kind of are in the enterprise world. Not me, you. Kind of doing this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you could talk a little about. So you joined 3 years ago, Proficient or so. I know they brought in Stone Temple Consulting a year or so ago.
Yeah, we've made a few different acquisitions recently, and actually that's how the Proficient digital agency has really been built, through acquisition. So the bulk of it was through acquisition. A company up in Milwaukee called Xeon, and they were brought in, I want to say about 5 years ago, I think. It was before my time, and so really formed this start of an agency. My boss, Matt Rude, I had met him at a PubCon poker tournament probably 5-6 years ago. And then one of my old colleagues, Andy Scott, who I worked with at Network Solutions, reached out and said, hey, we have a couple of openings if you're interested. And I really decided I'm kind of sick of trying to sell clients and not doing the work. I was doing everything other than SEO, basically. So I was like, I really would like to get back to doing some SEO work, and joined on. And then pretty quickly after that, the company started talking about acquisitions and who we were looking at buying, and obviously Stone Temple's name came up, and I was like, wait, what? And so it was pretty funny. It was a pretty cool surprise to me to hear that we had acquired them, and now are sort of folding them into our team.
So you didn't make that decision. You didn't write that check.
No. I had no knowledge of it before the fact.
All right, cool.
But yeah, no, I wish.
Talking about getting into SEO and talking about SEO, let's talk a little bit about. I know one of your passionate topics is site migrations.
Yeah. So that's something we do a lot here. Is really, whether it's a redesign or a platform move, from one CMS to another, or consolidating a bunch of domains. And we see, it's kind of become this thing where when you see it often enough, you realize, man, people really have some challenges and run into some fairly common roadblocks. I just had a client that completely migrated their site with no redirects at all. So even some basic things like that, you would think in a enterprise level, big business kind of world that stuff like that wouldn't happen, but in reality, everybody needs, you never know what the gaps are until you sort of get into the project.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff with large enterprises in terms of even like having like a no index, not even realizing. It's like the dumbest things that you need at least one SEO just to check it off and say, all right, this is good.
Yeah, and we kind of always take the approach of you have to check even the most basic things and continually recheck them as well, because things like that, no index, we've had migrations where, at the day of launch, the redirects, the no index, everything's looking good, and then 2 weeks later they put in a code update, and all of that gets overwritten, and all of a sudden you're tanking and you have no idea why.
It's just crazy, and I assume that's some of the challenges you experience with working with enterprises and so forth.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I would say that some of the main challenges are just the scope, right? So you're usually dealing with enormous sites, and so you have to start breaking things down into types of pages or templates or modules even of the different pages, and sort of diagnosing things on that basis as opposed to a page by page level. But the other thing is absolutely what you mentioned in terms of getting their development team or whatever the development team that they're working with, getting that team on sort of the same footing and on the same path that they need to be from an SEO perspective, and then also keep making sure that they keep that in mind. Obviously we have a lot of development teams that we work with internally in terms of Perficient, and so that's something that's pretty helpful for us. But even there, if the team hasn't worked with the SEO team all that frequently, there are new things for a platform. We ran into some situations where some of the new CMS updates really tanked SEO from a technical perspective, and so you have to kind of work together with the teams to figure out how to fix that, and then also how to balance the different business needs. I mean, we've had clients in the past where there's a very clear SEO solution, right? Like you absolutely need to implement this type of navigation, right. But from a business perspective, the money is elsewhere, right? Or there's politics within the business that, we can't link to this section or because so-and-so will get mad. And so figuring out how to balance those things, really, that's, I would say, probably the number one challenge with enterprise level clients is just sort of navigating those waters.
But you could come into a new company, a major enterprise company, and not know those dynamics. So you have to learn that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the process really is just ask a lot of questions, right? So figure out, what do you have the ability to do? Like, if I want something done, who do I have to go to, right? And whoever that person is, that's who your new best friend is. And that's an old, sort of axiom in enterprise level stuff, but make friends with whoever implements the code. And that's true. Take them out to lunch, take them out to dinner, whatever. And figuring out like what those politics are. If you ask a lot of questions, get into a lot of the sort of what we call discovery phase, that stuff comes out pretty quickly. Because when you ask, hey, can we, if we were to say, we want this or, X, Y, or Z to happen, what would your response be? Or have you thought about this? Or why have you not done this in the past? Those types of questions really start to, all of a sudden you start to see, okay, this team doesn't have the ability to implement that, or we don't have buy-in from higher up, or whatever the case may be. And then that's really where you start to tackle that problem, is how do we get that buy-in that we need, or how do we bridge that gap?
Cool. And could you maybe share one of the biggest site migration hiccups that you, or maybe I can't believe, head smacks, you want to call it whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, I mean, so, well, I kind of already referenced it. We had a client that and honestly, it wasn't even the client's fault necessarily, but as part of the migration process of pushing the code out from the staging environment, every time it went through, it was overriding redirects. And so even some of the minor changes, so, right at launch, we checked the redirects, everything was great. This was before we had the process in place of periodically and consistently checking those redirects. But so we checked it again two weeks after launch. Everything was good. I think our initial engagement had essentially ended after that, and then they came back to us 4 weeks later traffic is tanking. What's going on? Our 404 is everywhere. And we said, oh, you've got redirect issues. What happened here? And so it was tracking down, oh, actually, they just completely wiped out all the redirects. So then they get those back in place. And then 2 weeks later, we're like, look, this is pretty clearly a pattern of what happens every 2 weeks. Oh, our dev sprints are 2 weeks long. We also had a client, again, the no index one is pretty popular of accidentally leaving a tag when you migrate from a staging environment that you don't want indexed into a live deployment that you do want indexed.
Right.
That happens fairly frequently. We also had a client that we did an audit for, that we provided the audit. They were going to implement all of our recommendations as part of their new site design, which was supposed to go onto one platform. They came back to us about 6 months later and had changed their minds on the platform and gone with a CMS that was completely invisible from an SEO perspective. And so, we unfortunately had to let them know, hey, this just isn't going to get seen.
It's pretty crazy. Behind us is a putting green. Have you ever played?
I have not, no. Okay. Although that's about the extent of my golf, mini golf I do, but I'm not a golfer. The last time I played golf, I actually hit 2 different cars.
Okay.
So I just stopped.
There's a highway right there, so you probably could hit it.
Yeah.
Any event, where can people learn more about you?
Follow me on Twitter, I guess, at your own risk, Benjamin Cook. And really, that's pretty much the only place I'm active these days. The Proficient Digital blog, I occasionally blog on there. And actually have an article I'm working on now that maybe it'll be out by the time this gets published.
Cool.
Or also you can show up at PubCon. I'm speaking in October.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you very much for doing this.
Absolutely. Thanks.
So that was Ben Cook from Proficient. Awesome building. Take a look at the building behind me, I guess. It goes way up there. We'll flip the camera around so you can see it.